everyone, and welcome to the Manitoba Envirothon Wildlife Training Series. My name is Jennifer, and I'm going to be your host. I have my lovely assistant with me here today, and his name is Justin. Come on in and say hi, Justin.
Hi.
He's very excited. Now today we're going to talk about my most favorite subject in the entire world, and that's Scat. Yeah. Now, Justin, ask me a question.
Why do we study Scat?
Good question. We study Scat because it's a non-invasive way to study animal populations and communities. It tells us what the animal has been eating, it tells us where they're going, it tells us what habitat they use, and it tells us how animals overlap in space within each other. Interesting facts.
Very interesting.
Titillating. Now, there's 4 things to keep in mind when we're identifying Scat. The first thing is the location and placement of the Scat. So that means, where is it found? Is it found at the base of a tree? Is it found at the water's edge? Is it found in the water? Is it found in the middle of a trail? All of these things help us to identify what the Scat is. Second thing to keep in mind is size, because size matters. Some Scat may look extremely similar, but some is small and some is large. Third thing to keep in mind is the shape. That means, is the Scat look like a bunch of pellets, like so? Are they twisted? Is it tubular, or is it segmented? Those all help us to identify the Scat. And the last thing to keep in mind is that what is found inside of the Scat? Is it made with insect shells? Is it made with berries? Does it have some hair and fur twisted inside of it, or does it have little fragments of bone? All of that will help us to identify the Scat. And last but not least, always remember, don't touch the Scat with your bare hands, don't smell it, and definitely don't eat it. All right, so I've gone outside and I have collected a ton of Scat. So the next step of what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the different shapes. So I have taken my Scat and I have separated it into pellets, tubular, twisted, and segmented. So come in a little closer and we will identify them by their shapes. Okay, so we are going to now figure out all of our pellets and identify them. I'm going to give you a couple lovely little hints. Now, when we're identifying this one right over here, this looks like chocolate-covered M&Ms. And these are very common in the city and in the country, and it belongs to our cottontail rabbit. Going a little bit up in size, they're kind of more cylindrical in shape. These belong to our red squirrels, and I like to think that they remind me of Tic Tacs. A little bit bigger in size. These guys are nice and round, kind of cylindrical. These remind me of chocolate raisins, and they belong to our white-tailed deer. A little bit larger than the white-tailed deer, we have chocolate peanuts, and those belong to our elk. A little larger than our chocolate-covered peanuts, we're going to get into chocolate-covered almonds, and those belong to our moose. Now, when we have ones that are longer and cylindrical in shape, they kind of remind me of macaroni, and those belong to our porcupine. Porcupine like to sit in trees, so you'll find a lot of these Scat piled up at the base of a tree. Now, this one over here looks like compressed sawdust. They're going to be compact, and they're going to be found at the water's edge or inside of the water itself, and these belong to beavers. Another one that's found in wetland areas where you're going to find water, usually at the water's edge or even within the water. We're going to find this one right here, which belongs to a muskrat. Kind of reminds me of some shredded wheat. And the last 2 that we have for pellets, these are longer pellets, kind of almost tubular in shape. They're going to have little white ends, which you don't see in the replicas here, but these belong to birds. So the first one is going to belong to our grouse. They have a little bit smaller in shape pellets, but these guys have humongous piles of Scat, almost as big as the bird themselves. And the next one over here, we have our wild turkey. They kind of make little J shapes, a little bit longer in shape for their Scat. So there you go, all of the pellets you need to know. Okay, so now we're going to talk about tubular Scat. Now there's 4 main tubular Scats that we're going to keep in mind. Very, very large one right here is pretty easy to identify. Depending on the season, it's going to be full of berries. Unless they scavenge, maybe it'll be full of, deer hair or fur or anything else. But this right here is very large in size, quite tubular. This belongs to our black bear. Now, smaller in size and tubular can also be comprised of berries, could be full of insect shells, could be full of, maybe they've scavenged some meat, so there could be some hair in there as well. These belong to raccoon. Thing to keep in mind about raccoon and black bear, raccoon Scat can be very, very, very large, and some people mistake it for small black bears. That's how similar in shape Obviously, these two molds look very different, and for you during testing, you can just keep in mind, look at this mold, look at this mold, tell them apart. Now, the other two tubular shapes we have here belong to our canines. So one belongs to a coyote, the other one belongs to a wolf. Now, keep in mind, with these molds, some of them are very, very small comparative to what you would see in the wild. So for example, one that's this shape, generally the size of a hot dog when you're looking at the mold. This one belongs to a coyote, and this one's much larger than our coyote. This one belongs to a wolf. Now, I want you to keep in mind that in the wild, coyote scat and wolf scat are humongous and can be quite large. Wolf scat could be even bigger. But one thing that's going to be the main identifying feature of coyote and wolf scat is that they're going to be full of deer fur and pieces of bone, because that's what they like to eat. All right, so for our twisted scat, mainly these belong to the Mustelidae family, but there is an exception to the rule, and that is our fox. So foxes are canines, but they generally have this kind of twisted scat. So this one right here and this one right here, they actually both belong to a red fox. It's just a change in diet between the two. This one is full of rodents, and this is an omnivore diet that has a combination of both vegetative matter as well as animal matter. Now, the one below belongs to a skunk, which is from the Mustelidae family. So that's the weasel family, for those of you that don't know. And the weasel family, so they're going to have these long kind of twisted tapered ends. So there's other species like fishers, minks, martens. They all are from this family and will have twisted scat. But for you to know, this is all you need to understand and memorize. Okay, and now we have our segmented scat. Now, when I say segmented, what that means is you have little chunks of scat that are smooshed together in a tubular shape, hence the word segmented. Now, this one up here, this is a fun one. This is actually an invasive species to Manitoba. They are found in Spruce Woods Provincial Park, and this belongs to a wild boar. The one thing that helps me to remember this scat is it looks like those chocolate-covered caramels you get in the box at the movies, and you maybe put it in your car, and it's melted a little bit, and they've all smushed together, and they kind of come out in one big pile. So there you go, wild boar. The other two that I have here belong to the feline family. So when you're thinking of segmented, really keep in mind of the feline, so the cats. We only have 3 different species in Manitoba. We have the bobcat, the lynx, and we have cougars that come through the province. So this belongs to the smallest and the largest of the species. We have the smallest one right here, which belongs to our bobcat. And the largest of our species, which is the cougar, is this one right here. Now, the reason this isn't very, very large is because this belongs to a juvenile cougar. So remember, when you're looking at scat, even though, hey, this look pretty similar in size, it could be that the cougar, or the species that you're looking at, maybe it's a young species, maybe it's an older species. So it'll kind of tell you, that'll kind of trick you. And so you got to pay attention to the shape and what it's comprised of. So here we go, bobcat, cougar, and that's how you can tell them apart. Just memorize these 2 molds. All right, so that's all you need to know for your scat to study for the Manitoba Envirothon. And basically study hard, get to know all of these. Another place you can look for all of these resources is online at thinktrees.org. They have the scat PowerPoint. It doesn't have every single scat that we went over here, so it's good that you guys came to this session here. Another thing you can do is get out in the field, get a field guide and study and try and identify the scats. Here's a handy dandy thing you could bring with you. It's a bandana, scat bandana. You can get it at Acorn Naturalist. It's really, really cool. I'm freely promoting this for them. But it's very neat. Bring out something that will help you identify scat, because scat's cool and it's fun. And I like scat, if you haven't figured that out yet. Scat-tacular!